It's challenging work, managing our natural resources and sustaining healthy fish and wildlife populations in the face of rapid growth. That's what our state fish and wildlife professionals work at, day in and day out. They are committed to this work, to conserving both our game and non-game species. But as the pace of modern development has jumped and their mission has gotten tougher, we haven't been getting them the resources they need. One important resource for getting the job done is state wildlife grants, which are funded by Congress and distributed to state fish and wildlife agencies across the country. These grants are for the express purpose of developing and carrying out state-by-state wildlife action plans that keep fish and wildlife species from being placed on the federal endangered species list.
This is the core program in this country to keep species off the endangered and threatened species list. Sportsmen can be aware of what's in these plans. They can participate and have input into the plans. What are the species most critical conservation need?
And that's important because once an animal is listed as endangered, management decisions for it shift away from our state fish and wildlife managers, the people who are most knowledgeable and sensitive to local conditions and concerns. Yours and every other state's wildlife action plans are built around input from local farmers and ranchers, hunters, anglers, wildlife professionals, and other conservationists. Each state's grant is designed to help its fish and wildlife departments manage and improve habitats across large and important landscapes, address the needs of species in trouble before it's too late, and manage the needs of all wildlife species, including those we love to hunt and fish for.
Once they have the information to decide what we need to do for these species and their habitats, they need the tools to do that, whether it's equipment, whether it's more personnel, whether it's on-the-ground manipulation of habitat. These kinds of tools take basically two resources. They take time and money.
Sometimes we hunters and anglers get so focused on game species, we forget about non-game species and their roles in maintaining healthy habitats and making the whole hunting and angling experience richer by their presence. Let's face it, one thing non-game species provide is a prey base for larger species. The bass you love to catch depend on non-game species like frogs and minnows, or trout have to have various kinds of insects to eat. At certain times of the year, it's vital for bears to be able to find particular kinds of grubs. We need to make sure plenty of those non-game sorts of critters are around for the game animals we focus on so much. Still, other non-game species serve as indicator species, like the canaries used to test the air in the underground mines of old. They indicate to us, by their very presence, that their habitats are healthy too. There's no getting around it. Either we have adequately sized pieces of healthy habitat, along with strong populations of both game and non-game species, that are the direct result of comprehensive management activities on the ground, or we have problems. Problems that come when the government is compelled to step in to protect endangered species. That sometimes means limiting our hunting and fishing opportunities and changing the way our natural resources are used.
It takes a lot of time and money. There's so many levels of bureaucracy that things have to go through, and there's legal challenges at almost every step of the way. So all of us are way better off keeping wildlife in a condition where they're not threatened or endangered.
State wildlife grants fund projects that keep species from ever becoming endangered. The more funding made available for these grants, the fewer species that become endangered. It's that simple. Grants can be leveraged and enhanced with additional support from nonprofit conservation groups like Trout Unlimited, Ducks Unlimited, Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, Pheasants Forever, and dozens of others. State wildlife grants have not been getting the amount of funding they need for full implementation. Your state fish and wildlife professionals need these grants. Your local rod and gun club, your union local, and your hunting and fishing buddies can help by speaking up to get better funding for state wildlife grants. To help the professionals in our states looking after our fish and wildlife resources, we all need to jump in and make sure they are getting the support they need by doing 3 things. 1, we must be certain our policymakers know we want better state wildlife grant funding in order to restore, reestablish, and maintain healthy habitats, and thus the future of hunting and fishing. 2, we must leverage these grants by encouraging and supporting additional voluntary donations through partner groups, additional voluntary license fees, and personal donations. And 3, we must roll up our sleeves and actually jump in and get our hands dirty working on projects alongside other hunters and anglers.
Most people love wildlife, and a lot of the wildlife we have in America doesn't just happen. It happens through actions on the ground, but it goes all the way down to the individual citizen on what we call citizen conservation, people that are out there taking part in their local bird surveys and helping on a habitat project in a stream. Those contributions, whether they're in-time contributions of people working on the ground through sweat equity or whether they're individuals contributing money, those things count, and they're probably some of the most important things in these programs, all the way up to the big foundations that might contribute millions to some of these big projects.
To get specific guidance on how to take one or all of these steps, go to www.trcp.org and click on the State Wildlife Grants page. There you'll find useful links and directions. You can also call toll-free 1-877-770-8722. Don't delay. Act today. Get involved. Our children and grandchildren deserve nothing less. It's up to us to leave them an outdoor legacy worth inheriting.
Sportsmen are the true conservationists. I think it's critical that sportsmen get involved in the state wildlife grant program in every state. The key thing that we all have to consider is that we have to have an assurance that we're going to have continuing funding from year to year. For state wildlife agencies to establish the infrastructure they need for this program, we've got to know that those dollars are going to continue to come in future years.